Hey folks, got a big treat a couple days back with some short interview snippets published by the Everquest show with a few of the Daybreak employees, including the head of studio, that I'm going to react to in this video. Specifically the parts about the anniversary in-game events, a tease on the 25th anniversary servers, and the aftermath of the encounter locking system implementation. If you don't know the Everquest show, definitely one you want to check out and subscribe to. I've put a link to his channel and the video that I used here in the description below. Also probably need a bit of context before we watch this. The channel is run by Fading, and he's pretty much only capable of saying positive things about Everquest, so just keep that in mind as we go through this. There's a couple topics I've omitted as well, like about the live events they have planned, and all the stuff about EQ2. So definitely go check the full video out when you get a chance. Alright, let's kick off.
And while I was at Darkpaw Games Studio, I wanted to sit down with some of the developers and talk about some of this content. First up was Robin Vallee, who was in charge of all of that Year of Darkpaw content.
I am the live events designer for Everquest. This year it's all centralized on Year of Darkpaw, so my live events this year are going to be on the Anniversary Tower and doing an event for each month for that. I am a newish designer. I've been with the game for 3 years now. So it's just been a smorgasbord of learning, and I love it.
And for a Year of Darkpaw, what kind of challenges have you found with that?
Yeah, I can believe that's how she truly feels. Reminds me of the time I had to look into someone's 20-year-old Fortran once.
It's a little quicker. So with the live events, I have a little more time that I can spend working on it. But with the Year of Darkpaw, it's one a month, every month, keep it going. So it's like, okay, I have to go in there and get it done really quick.
And some of the lessons learned from Year of Darkpaw tasks may filter over into some of our future holiday tasks, including for those on TLPs.
The other live events haven't been geared towards all the players, like TLPs. And this one is. Anybody can do it on any server, and that has been really good feedback.
And do you think that's something that maybe you'll take a lesson from?
I do really want to keep doing that.
Okay, so she's talking about the Anniversary Tower quests here. We've only got 2 of those so far for January and February, and you can check a couple of my recent videos for 3-ish minute guides on them if you haven't done them yet. I totally agree with her that it's been great that they've made these active for TLPs as well as live. The normal anniversary quests always seem to kick in right after they'd be useful on TLPs, which I know a lot of people have expressed frustration over the years. I would say there is one thing about these, though, going forward that she might want to look into. The rewards looked like they might be a bit off depending on the level range, and I realize that might be hard to get right given how many different levels of the rewards there are, spanning all the way up to level 125. But for example, people on Oakland were saying the second quest reward at level 65 is this augment, which is kind of a joke. Strength is pretty easy to cap, so that reward isn't going to really do much. It's also not clear to me how these rewards are going to interact with people leveling up and entering new expansions on TLPs throughout the year. Are we expected to go rerun all the missions to get the upgraded versions 3 or 4 times during the year? Dunno. But all in all, it's been a pretty solid start on this quest line, so we'll see what she does with the next missions. Okay, next topic, the big tease about this year's TLPs.
And if that excitement weren't enough, we've also got TLP and TLE servers that are coming over the next few months. So while I was at Darkpaw, I figured I'd ask about those as well. So let's talk about another thing that I think gets the player base excited, and that's the TLP and TLE releases. Let's start with the EQ TLP. We're approaching, there's a lot of excitement. I mean, the TLP base is very excited about what's to come. Do you have any ideas on where you're headed for the TLPs for this year? It's a big year, and I think players may be expecting something big. What do you have in mind?
Well, for EQ, we're planning on bringing back our most popular TLP rule sets.
Oh.
I'll probably leave that there with details, but certainly I can say that we get it. Some people were not there for when these rule sets launched, and this is a chance for them to really experience it at launch and really feel the excitement and the energy in the air of being there at the beginning of these rule sets.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Is that Mischief 2.0 confirmed? That must be the most popular TLP we've had if you look at it over its entire life. But what do you guys think the second most popular has been? I'm drawing a blank because I want to say it was Ragefire, but there's like literally no way of voting, no AOC server is going to happen. So what do y'all think the second server is going to be? Just a Finny clone? Some of those don't even have a distinguishing characteristic anymore, like Eridoon got its removed because it was so bad. I'm also glad they're not trying to do something experimental again. They clearly just don't have the resources to support them based on the last 2 years of that. Okay, a little bit more here. Let's see what she has to say.
But at least I could get a feel for the process of how they determine what a rule set could be.
What do you think it is that makes a successful TLP server? What do you think are ones that have done well? Why do you think they do well?
I think the ones that do the best are the ones that definitely lean on nostalgia, but also give people something new to play, and something new and different, or something that changes up that original experience.
Yeah, that's not a great response. It needs to be something new and different, and by the way, we're not doing something new and different this year. I think the thing she's really missing here is that it has to work. If you do something new and different, but then you don't implement it correctly, or in some cases at all, that's why players leave in large amounts and those servers become unsuccessful. Okay, the rest of this I'm going to react to is about FTE. Let's see what they say.
How do you think the first to engage has worked out?
So with encounter locking,
That's pretty funny. They refused to use the player adopted name of FTE. I think I might be one of the only people who calls it encounter locking regularly apart from their own employees. Just trying to stay on Miko's good side. Wink.
if there's a whole bunch of people all contesting for the same mob, somebody, usually somebody that usually can't compete, is able to at least down that mob and to be able to continue on like their quest lines.
Okay. That answer just shows she doesn't have much idea how the game is played out there in the wild. At least previously it was transparent and that casual player knew they were going to need to bring more people along or just not waste their time. As it is now, do you think that person is going to understand what clickies they need to grab aggro? How about what AAs work for instacast and aggro versus those that just blow the cooldowns if you click them before the mandatory cooldown from when the mob spawns? Whenever you add complexity to the game, that can only advantage the sweatier players even more than they were already advantaged. They're the ones who are going to learn how all that works and how to take advantage of it.
Quest lines.
Do you think it's done what you intended to do, or has it created a new set of problems as well?
I think it generally has done what we intended to do. You know, that was to reduce trains. I mean, trains are practically non-existent now, and to reduce griefing.
Love his facial expression there. Like, are you kidding me? I don't know, maybe they just don't tell her, but as y'all know, it's not hard to create trains maliciously that have immortal mobs in them. It may be true that your random accidental train isn't as common, and that's thanks to the implementation of encounter locking, but you can definitely screw people over with trains where they can't even fight back much easier than before. I showed the devs that bug during the test patch week, but nothing happened to address it. There's another video on my channel if you want to see how it plays out in a live environment.
So when you come up with different rule sets for the TLPs, what ideas do you consider? Are there limitations on what you can and can't do within the TLP framework?
I mean, we're constantly considering all kinds of ideas. We read the forums, we're constantly in Discord. We also read non-official forums. A lot of times we're lurking on those. So certainly the ideas can come from anywhere. And, you know, the limitations, they always boil down to the big three project management triangle, right? Time, cost, people.
Of that triangle, which is your most limiting constraint?
I would definitely say people, right? Because, again, 25 years of EverQuest, there's a lot to learn, and very few people have that much knowledge.
Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate. They've got such a small dev pool, and a bunch of them are probably like the lady they had on earlier who's been there 3 years, which is probably just time to scratch the surface on a lot of the game's code. Don't know how much reading the forums is going to help, though. You know what they say, when anyone in the world can write anything they want about any subject, you know you're getting the best information possible.
Someone who does have that knowledge and who looks at the code of EverQuest every day is Chris Cheeseman, Chris was responsible for coding the encounter locking system, and I asked him what it's like to touch code that stretches back 28 years.
It's a challenge. I generally try and understand as much as possible about whatever system or feature I'm working on, to kind of make sure that any of the past work is understood. That way the new work that I'm piling on top of it doesn't cause too many issues.
Were those difficult to code? Were those difficult to change?
Both of those systems, the damage system and the aggro system, are pretty old systems, and they affect a lot of the game. It was challenging to get a good understanding of each of those to be able to make the tweaks that needed to be made.
How do you implement something like that on just one server? Is it a if then? Is it literally an if then? If this server, then use that. If not, don't use it?
Yeah, so it's all of the code that handles that is all behind checks for if the rule set is active, then do the extra check that allows the encounter locking system to work.
Yeah, I want to say I've seen them state somewhere all that stuff that isn't universal across all servers is done with some init files. Seems pretty practical. And I don't doubt for a second the aggro and damage parts of the code are pretty obtuse. I hope for this guy, Miko, that it's not written in COBOL or something like that.
So if the new server comes out and that rule set is active, you literally just flip a switch on that server and it knows to recognize that.
That's how we're able to turn it on the test server. We basically turn the switch on for the test server to test those changes that we want some extra eyes on.
And whatever the rule sets for those servers, those won't be announced for weeks or months.
Yeah, so all in all, some good info there. The biggest piece is definitely about the new server that's apparently Mischief 2.0. Maybe they'll surprise us and say it was the random part that made that popular and not free trade. So that'll be a few weeks out. Otherwise, probably two things I'd like them to think about on the tower missions, which are the scaling of the rewards, and also if we're going to need to rerun everything to get upgraded rewards 3 or 4 times each year as those TLPs get more expansions unlocked over the course of the year. And finally, it does sound like they think the encounter locking code is working. I don't know what to think about that when, as far as raid mobs are concerned, it hasn't worked well, to the point where Negreth agreed to turn it off for a bunch of stuff. And I'll go as far as to say it's going to be pretty wild if Planes of Power launches with that active on these upcoming servers. We shall see. All right, good luck out there, everyone.